Dear colleague, welcome to this edition of Wolfsburg Window. We have with us today Steve Shirley, Dame Stephanie Shirley, who changed her name to Steve Shirley because at the time that she created her very successful company, now called Xansa PLC, X-A-N-S-A, Xansa PLC, one of the FTSE 250 companies, that is one of the top 250 companies in the United Kingdom. It was not really acceptable to have women starting and owning and running companies. And so she changed her name in order to be able to get past the initial barrier of prejudice and discrimination. And Steve is with us today at Wolfsburg, sharing the lessons from her very entrepreneurial life. She built up a very successful company over years and years, and eventually made a lot of money from selling the shares, a lot of them to her co-workers, and then has occupied herself with giving vast quantities of money away to do very worthwhile things like founding the first livery company, a guild for information technology, which is of course the area in which she built up her company, having started as a mathematician. And she gave away another large sum of money to Oxford University to set up the Oxford Internet Institute. Steve, your life started not so happily, not so well. You've built up a very successful company financially and in every other way. But your childhood was rather painful. Could you tell us about it?
I think it's quite important that my childhood was different to other people because I finished up very different to other people, and my business and my philanthropic work is also very pioneering and different. We all wish a happy life to our children. My childhood was not happy. My father was a German judge who was Jewish at a time of horrendous discrimination, and so the family was split up by the evil of those times. And I was sent to England into the arms of strangers and was fostered by a lovely English couple. So in a way I was very lucky. But it did leave me with a need to recognise that tomorrow is always going to be different. And I learnt, in fact, to embrace change. And also the need to justify why I was saved and make the life that was saved worth saving.
Steve, this painful childhood, different childhood that you had, it taught you lessons, of course, but were these lessons essential to your business success, or did they just add to your business success?
I think it was probably essential. I would have been quite a different person, I think, working in the public sector, serving the public good, perhaps, but certainly not doing anything exceptional. What is innate in every person has to be developed in some way, either by training or by experience. And with me, it was those childhood experiences that set me on a path that I think I have. It's as alive to me today, 60 years on, as it ever was.
So were there any specific qualities, any particular things that you feel helped you to become successful in business?
I think customers trust me. I am a trustworthy person, and that's pretty important. I care for people both for their strengths and charm and delight, but also for their vulnerability and their potential. And that takes precedence over making a lot of money. It really was not part of my life plan at all. And the organisations that do survive long term, and Xansa is now 40 years old, are those that do connect with their customers very closely and have some idea as to where they're going. It's not just looking at the next quarter or the next year, but they know what it is that they're trying to do, and we had that.
Steve, you built up this very successful company and then managed even more successfully an exit from the company. And certainly from the outside, it seemed very smooth and effective. How did it feel on the inside?
Well, it certainly wasn't smooth. It was reasonably effective. I transferred the control away from me into the hands of the workforce, and that was a very happy transition for me long term. But while it was happening, it was painful, it was disjointed, it seemed to be endless. I was always spending my time with legal people and tax people. How can we do this? How can we do that? How do we make it happen? But in retrospect, I'm as proud of that as I am of Xansa's commercial success.
Steve, you said in another place that closing things down well is as important as starting things off well. And closing things down well is certainly not a common gift, is certainly not taught or discussed or studied or learnt about or practiced at all often. What do you think are the key ingredients in closing something down well? And is that drawing upon skills that are common to all areas of management? Or is that very particular kind of gifts that are brought into play when you close something down?
In management, I find one really has to sort of encourage oneself to praise and extol excellence all the time. And when things go wrong, yes, you may mention it, but it's better not to mention it at all and just concentrate on the successes. So what do you do with a division that's failed and really has to be closed? So somehow we've got to find things to make the people that are in that and have presumably worked hard without avail feel good. And there are always lots of things you can say. This has been a noble attempt, or it's been a good team. We've all learnt a great deal. The organisation has benefited from this experiment, and be able to close it down so that people walk away friends. They walk away proud of what they've done. Okay, the next time they try it, they'll do it a bit differently, and that is almost as important as how to start something off. We've all had to downsize. We've all had to do these horrid jobs, but it can be done with sensitivity to the people involved. Sensitivity
and grace and style are not words that are commonly associated with business, unfortunately, in our world. Not necessarily with entrepreneurship, not necessarily with management. But you've learned through your experience to embody those values, and you're now using them in a very different way in what you're involved in now. Could you tell us a bit about that?
For the last 11 years, I've concentrated on another aspect of my life that I feel very strongly about and know something about. Information technology was always my chosen profession, having been a mathematician. But my late son, our only child, was autistic, and this is a very serious and not so rare disorder where the children lack the ability to speak, sometimes lack the ability to communicate in any way, and are very self-centered, unable to socialise in some ways. So it's a very debilitating disorder. It affects 1 in 166 children now. And I started, as very often happens with the families under stress, with a care charity that would actually care for my own child, who was then living in hospital. And this charity now supports 37 very difficult young people, mainly men, because it hits the boys more. And have moved on via schools and lobbying groups and networks, portal sites to inform people worldwide on what's available in autism. And have finished up the last 3 or 4 years with the biggest philanthropic exercise. It is just to coordinate and encourage the medics to work together to find the causes of autism. It sounds so simple. That's all we're doing. We're looking for the causes of autism. And they work by nature, apparently, competitively, and they will get much further if they work cooperatively. And philanthropists equally are used to working very much as individuals, and we get much further if we work together, because my little bit of money adds to somebody else's bit of money, adds up to the $500 million, which is the sort of sum that I budgeted was needed to solve this problem in the next few years. So it's a task that is engaging me. It's a task that I enjoy. It has me working with teams worldwide. And it's interesting how an outsider can, to a certain extent, see what needs to be done clearer, perhaps, than the people who are so close to it. So I spend my time talking about, well, these are the main challenges. Make sure that your research is addressing those challenges, not just tinkering around at the edges. And the lessons that I've learned in business just apply wholeheartedly to philanthropy.
Steve, you've led a very interesting life, a very fulfilling life, a very rich life in every sense of the word. What message do you have for our co-workers in UBS?
I believe it's more difficult in a major organisation such as UBS to feel that you are important and really can make a difference. But each individual has within them the capability to make a difference in one way or the other. To lead a team, to be part of a team, to chair a team, to be the irritant within a team. The civil service always used to call me the grit in the oyster, because when I worked on their committees, I always got different results out of them because I was slightly aggressive, certainly by civil servant standards. So individuals have enormous strengths, and to build on those strengths and set aspirations very high seems to me so much better than to say, oh dear, I'm not very good at this, and oh dear, I did that wrong. We all make mistakes, and it's how we deal with mistakes or things that we can do better next time that really make a difference. And women in particular have to have confidence in themselves that we have a great deal to contribute to the world of finance, and make sure that we contribute it 101%.
Women or men, entrepreneurship is, of course, one of the key competences within UBS. At least we like to think that that's one of the competences that we like to develop and reward and encourage. And it comes, of course, from self-confidence, and it comes from the willingness to take risks to contribute to what's going on, at the cost of unpopularity, perhaps, at the cost of being different, perhaps. And certainly Dame Shirley's life story illustrates that very well, doesn't it? Well, thank you very much for being with us for this edition of Wolfsburg Window. Goodbye for this time, and I'll look forward to seeing you on another occasion.